Hello and welcome to Hexed Encountered. I'm Joe. Got a new one in today. This is Old School Tactical Volume 4 from Flying Pig Games. This one's the Italian Theater 1943 to 45. The central core box is bringing in the British and the Italians into the series for the first time. This is designed by Shane Logan, a Mark H. Walker game, and published by Flying Pig Games. And as I said, it is the Italian Theater 1943 to 45. I backed it on Kickstarter, just got it today. Wanted to do a first look video, so I'm doing that. And I got some other things. I got the expansion and some other goodies along with it. So we'll take a look at all of that. But we'll start with the base game here. So if we flip it over, whoa, it's nice and slippery on my table. It's Old School Tactical Volume 4 brings the exciting OST system to this challenging theater of World War II, that being the Italian theater. It brings British forces into the game to battle German and Italian units in the difficult terrain of Sicily and the Italian mainland. Vickers machine guns, Commanders, Piats, Sherman 5, and Churchill tanks will see action in the game. The German and Italian forces counter with many Panzers, including the Marder III and Elefant. Find your enemy, fix them, flank them, and finish them. If it works on the battlefield, it works in Old School Tactical. The game includes one huge 30 by 41 inch mounted game board with 1 inch hexes. Yep, big hexes. That is a hallmark of this series. 3 die-cut counter sheets of 3/4 and 7/8 inch counters. 27 luck cards, 43 unit data cards. 2 player aid cards, 4 dice, full color rules, and the playbook that has 14 scenarios. It's for 14 and up, 2 players, and playing time from 45 minutes to 5 hours. So I'm going to crack into the box here, and then we'll take a look at what's inside. Okay, let's open it up and see what we've got. Now, this is a giant box, as you would expect if you're familiar with Old School Tactical or a lot of the other old school Flying Pig games, rather. They come in big boxes. So here's our rule book with some cards and dice inside. And I usually start with the rules. This is version 5.75 of the series rules. All right, so we have about 25 pages, it looks like. And if you're not familiar with the game, it's not overly complicated. It's a very straightforward game. It does have some unique aspects to the rules, I would say. So you get your basic introduction, right? Talks about the map, the turn tracker, the fact that you can actually have an extra turn based on a die roll at the end of the game. Your various trackers, right? So you're going to track victory points, you're going to track casualties, you're going to You're going to track victory points. You're going to track enemy casualties. You're going to track your points, and your impulse points, rather, which determine how many actions you get to take in a turn. And you can lose some of those based on how many casualties you take. So that's why you track the casualties. You get points for them, but you also can reduce your opponent's impulse points, which are, as I said, the actions that you use to make moves. So we have the units and markers, of course. Look at the counters. Again, if you're not familiar with the game, I'm not going to go overly in depth here because we will do playthroughs of this, and then it'll be an opportunity to kind of go through everything. But the game features leaders, both regular, quote regular, and armor leaders. They have a little bit different capabilities. Again, we'll get into that when we do our playthrough. Here are our gun counters with the covered arc. Basically, you point this at a hex side, and the 2 hexes in front of that make a fan that goes out, and that's your covered arc for fire by this particular gun. The guns can turn, but not. They can. That's an action essentially. So, like I said, we're going to get into that a little later. What else we got? Sustained fire for machine guns. You've got your support weapons that are basically attached to squads. This is a squad-based tactical, squad-level tactical game. We do have vehicles, of course, both things like trucks as well as, troop transports, armored personnel carriers, tanks, etc., like you would expect. And we've got a Panzer V, also known as a Panther. And again, you can see the unit facing, because this is a turreted vehicle, of course, it's a tank. This is just basically this is the arc based on where it's really more like where you're facing, and then you can fire in any direction, basically. And then you have again, I'm going to go into this in depth when we play, what all of this stuff means, but it's what you would expect. You've got HE and AP firepower, you've got movement, you've got defense, both front and flank if you are an armored vehicle. For squads, it's a little different, of course. You can see there's rules for double or dual armament carrying vehicles. I'm tripping over my words today. Limited fire, you've got cover, foxholes, trenches, mines, pillboxes, and bunkers, barbed wire, etc., etc. All kinds of stuff. This is really in-depth. You can see all the various terrain in here. Now, this is a series rule book, so it covers everything. All kinds of terrain. Rules for buildings, multi-hex and multi-level buildings. Details on line of sight with elevation and, blocking and degrading terrain. Again, we'll go into all of this in the playthrough. Then how the gameplay works, which is obviously important. This is a unit data card, so this will show you, basically, this is the range at which the Marder 3 can fire, and then its 2 hit numbers and its AP firepower numbers based on the range. So the closer you are in general, the more powerful your shot would be. Goes through the impulse system, which is kind of the core thing. That's how your units take actions. You can do, I believe it is 1 move and 2 fire actions in a turn. There are things that cost more than 1 impulse and so on. There's a lot of nuance and depth to it. This is unit quality. So for this one, I think this is new because it's in blue text. You have elite units, regular units, and poor quality units. Then we have rallying, of course. Stacking limits, hidden units, and then the movement rules. They call this old school tactical because it is just that. It's kind of an old school approach to tactical gaming. It covers pretty much everything you would want without being overly rule heavy. So you've got vehicle, here's our vehicle movement and facing. Vehicles can be bogged down based on the terrain they're in. Entering and exiting units, transporting units, group move. If you have a leader, you can move 2 units together as a group move. Rolling cover, you can use an armored fighting vehicle as cover for your infantry. That has pluses and minuses, perhaps, if that AFV takes fire. Airborne rules, so you can have paradrops. That's more in OST 2. I think I haven't gone through the scenarios, but in OST 2, there is an airborne expansion that uses these rules, of course. Your combat formula, pretty straightforward. You take your attacker firepower. Now, there are modifiers, okay? Attacker firepower, defender defense, again, modifiers like terrain and cover, etc. That gives your attack firepower, and then you just roll some dice, and you look it up. And it's 2d6. It's very, very straightforward. The leader casualty roll, you have intensive fire, infantry combat. The combat results, you can have a unit destroyed, you can have casualties, they can become broken or shaken. They can also take no damage at all, as you would expect. Vehicle combat, again, your range, the 2 hit number. The 2 hit number, you roll 2 dice. If it is the same or higher, it's a hit. If it's below, it's a miss. And then the same thing with the firepower. You take the firepower and you, again, subtract the armor based on whether it's front or flank, and then that gives you a number, which will give you a column that we'll see on the player aid for resolving your combat. You've got various things that'll happen when a vehicle takes a hit. You can have different kinds of results, just like we did with the soft targets, the infantry. You can have vehicle damage. You can have your crew bail. You can have you check for crew survival. Collateral damage, if you're using rolling cover, for example. Then you have melee. Melee always takes place at the end of the turn. And the explanation of melee combat, concentrated attacks, tank duels, opportunity fire, of course. Offboard assets such as artillery and air. So you have airstrikes, you have offboard artillery, you have spotters. Your leaders can give a bonus to a spotter. You have structures that can collapse, drift for your artillery. And then right here near the back, we've got our turn sequence, which is also right here. The various things that happen in there. Then we have our rules index, covering several pages, and a glossary, and that is that. So that is our rule book. Here we have the playbook, and I have a player aid card under there. Here's the playbook. About the Italian campaign, here are our 14 scenarios listed, going all the way from July 10th of 43 in Sicily, all the way up to September 7th, 44 at Germano Ridge, Italy. That's a 16-turner. You have your theater terrain and the special rules for this theater, and then some information on the research that if you wanted to find out more things about this particular theater and campaign, which always kind of has taken a backseat to, obviously like Normandy and, the push across France and the Bulge and Siegfried Line and getting into Germany and all that stuff. But there was a lot of pretty bitter fighting going on in Italy, all at pretty much in the same time period. And then we get into the scenarios. So we won't go into the scenarios too much because, again, we'll see that when we get the gameplay video. So here we have our player aids. These are identical. This is both sides. So you have your terrain chart with your movement cost, defensive bonuses, whether it blocks or degrades line of sight. Pretty basic stuff that you would expect. Airstrike procedure, bog down procedure, rallying, offboard artillery and accuracy, your drift direction roll. Then you've got your combat tables. So this is the infantry combat table, or the ICT as it's called in the rule book. And you've got columns, again, based on the number that you get after you take your attacker firepower and your defense, and you do your math, you get a column, and then you roll in here and you'll get one of the results. X is elimination, C is a casualty with B is broken, C casualty shaken, casualty broken, shaken, and then white would be nothing, or blank rather. Then you have your modifiers that are cumulative for firepower, the die roll modifiers for things like moving and whether you have a leader, height differential, ambush, etc., and then leader casualty roll. Down here we have the VCT, or vehicle combat table. Works pretty much the same way, except that you get D instead of casualty. You get D for damage, and then you would have a damage roll to figure out what kind of damage. That's over here. Everything from abandoning the vehicle to being immobilized to damaging a gun, whether it's main or your machine gun, to minor damage, which really equates to basically like very little damage. So you got your 2-hit modifiers again, you've got your firepower modifiers and your DRMs. So pretty straightforward. Like I said, this game is, everything makes sense, let's put it that way. It's not going to be one of those games that you're going to be scratching your head and trying to figure out how the rules work, because the rules are pretty clear and concise. So here we have, and that's upside down, here we have some counters. These are British, as you might guess from looking at them. So you have leaders, you have rifle squads, you have snipers, which are a single man unit, and also things like sappers, or basically they're like engineers, I guess. Then you've got your anti-tank weapons down here, your mortars, a flamethrower, which can usually only be used by sappers. Tank crews, some anti-tank guns, again, machine guns. You've got satchel charges, trucks. Here's some Shermans, some Churchills, etc., etc. Then we've got some German tanks and vehicles down here at the bottom on this sheet. They are two-sided. They punch real easy. These are also sizable counters. And you can see on the back of vehicles, you have the wreck side, then you have reduced side for your squads, and so on. So that's pretty straightforward there. Let me put this over here, and I lost a counter in my hand already. One of my rifle squads decided to make a break for it. And this one's also upside down, and so will this one be. So here we have more Germans, and then you have some Italians, of course, with control markers. So there are control markers for, you know, victory point, victory hexes, etc. Their squad weapons, their squads, some leaders over here. They're all named. Then you've got some armored fighting vehicles, such as this guy right here. R35, you can see it, and then on the back, of course, is its wreck side. So that is pretty cool as well. And then we also have, of course, some more German vehicles at the bottom, including the Marder 3. Here are our markers. These are these are all markers, I'm pretty sure. You have your off-board artillery and air. You've got acquiring, and somewhere over here is acquired. This is for, because you can fire twice, you can fire at a unit and you get a bonus if you fired at it previously in that same turn. So you would put an acquiring on your firing unit and an acquired on your target, so that you know, you remember when you come back to it later, perhaps, and it's within the turn, because once the turn's over, these come off. But that would give you a slight bonus. You have smoke, of course, mines and cover, bunker, roadblocks, foxholes, etc. Bridges. And you've got control markers for the British. You've got map edge markers, because not every scenario is going to use the whole map. And then you have your markers for being used, being broken, intensive fire, immobilized, main gun. And of course on the back, you have fired and moved, depending. You kind of turn it to what it is, if it's fired or moved. Pivot gun, we have an Italian control marker. Then you've got shaken on the other side of broken. You've got machine guns, you've got melee markers, German control here. Bogged instead of immobilized, roll and cover instead of the intensive fire, etc. Single smoke as opposed to two smoke. And then destroyed bridges and wire and so on. And you can see all kinds of different things on here. So those are our counters. Here are some unit cards. Sorry, the color went a little bonkers on me there. But there's a unit there. There's some unit cards. We bring it up closer. Color looks a little whack, but it's I'm pretty sure you can tell what that is. Then we have more unit cards here, but we also have luck cards. So I'll save these for when I play the game. As far as looking at them, you do have two pairs of D6s. And then the main event, so to speak, is the gigantic board. So let me move some things around, and then we're going to spread this board open, and you can see it in all its magnificent glory. Okay, so as you can see, this map is so large that I actually have to take it off the camera and do handheld, or take it off the tripod rather, and do handheld, or so that you can see just how big it is. So we'll take a quicker, closer look here, but I did want to show the whole thing in one shot. It is a very large map with very large hexes. Okay, so here we are in one corner of the map, and the map is basically, it has two sides, one for each player. So what you're looking at here is kind of upside down from this vantage point, but that's because it's basically the top of the board that's facing away from me, and that would be the opponent's side, I guess you could say. But you can see the varied terrain on the map. It's a very nice, well done map, as is always the case with Flying Pigs games. Here is our impulse point track up here. You've got a tens column, basically, and then a ones column. This is map 9, as you can see right there. It does have the terrain key on it as well, including things like elevation. Then you have your turn track here as well. You can see some fortifications, and you can see some of the elevation there. We've got rubble. You've got roads, etc., etc. And down here is the other impulse point tracks, as you can see. And then you have tracks over here with the nice Flying Pig logo as well. Got all of these tracks here on your side, and of course a compass rose. So as I said, this is an extremely nice map. I'm not going to probably get all of it, but you got a pretty good idea here, basically looking at it. So that is the map. Okay, now we're going to move on to the expansion. This is For the Empire. This is the expansion for Old School Tactical Volume 4, Canada and New Zealand and Italy. So we're going to have some Commonwealth troops. And this by the way is pretty heavy. I'm not gonna lie. It's obviously not as thick as the base game, but the box is, in terms of height and width, is the same. It's just not as deep. So For the Empire adds more forces and challenging scenarios to Old School Tactical Volume 4. Canadian and New Zealand units are added to the Allied side, and Deadly Fallschirmjäger are added for the Axis. Old School Tactical players can experience the gritty battles of Monte Cassino. With the 2nd New Zealand Division and her Armored Brigade, they can play in the Test of Will in Ortona, pitting the Canadian regiments against the German paras. This includes another gigantic 30 by 41 inch mounted game board with 1-inch hexes, 2 die-cut counter sheets of 3/4 and 7/8 inch counters, 18 unit data cards, a full color playbook with 14 more scenarios. Just like the base game, it's 14 and up for 2 players, 45 minutes to 5 hours. The game is somewhat solitaire friendly. I'm talking about the 2-player part, of course. I play it solitaire all the time. Well, not this one, not yet, but I played 1, 2, and 3 solitaire, and you know, the hidden unit thing makes it a little bit tricky, but that's not the case in every scenario. And there's a lot of games that work, or a lot of scenarios rather, that work quite well in solo mode. True solo mode, as they say, where you're just doing your best for both sides. So here's our playbook. So we've got 14 more scenarios, and you've got 5 for the Kiwis, and I guess that leaves what, 9 for the Canadians. We've got some new units, as they mentioned, the Fallschirmjägers, which, if you're not familiar, are airborne, and with the German airborne troops, and some new vehicles, a Stuart tank, the M5 reconnaissance vehicle. It's got its turret removed, but it does have extra machine guns. It's an open-topped armored troop transport. And then you have your scenarios. We've got Casino and a couple of these to kick things off. 3. Then we have a Monte Cassino in number 4, and another Casino in 5. Then you have Sicily. These would be the Canadian scenarios. Ortona, Green Devils, Dead Horse Square, Road to Rome, A Hard Day, Recon, Hang On Lads, Dogfight is the last one. That's a pretty cool poster image on the back there. Counters, pretty similar to what you would think they'd be, based on seeing the base game a second ago. But yeah, you've got some Kiwis down here. You can see a little Kiwi symbol there. Some rifle squads, Lieutenant Hawkins, Sergeant Bishop, Sergeant Fletcher, Sergeant Kelly, Sergeant Murphy, etc., etc. Then we have Canadians up top, and they have their maple leaf there. And then we've got some various things: armored cars, troop carriers, some more tanks, Shermans and Stuarts. So there we go, some American tanks. Then we have some more units, more Australians mostly. Got a couple of support weapons here for the New Zealanders, the Germans, and then some extra point trackers for your victory points, casualty points, impulse points, some more artillery and air, some more shaken markers, fired and moved, etc. And then the board. We do have cards for the new units that are specific to this. And again, we'll look at that later. Now, this map is the same size as the other one, and I probably won't dismount my camera and everything like I just did. But one thing I wanted to show here on this one, now that I'm looking at it, as expected, it has me bumping into the camera. No, what I was going to say is it has, straighten this out, totally discombobulated it there when I whacked it. You got a city, which is always cool. One thing I don't have that I wish I did was the Stalingrad expansion for the first game, the base game, Old School Tactical Volume 1, which was the Eastern Front. I don't have that. I would love to have it, but it is out of print and extremely expensive if you can find one. So here we have a city for those city battles, Monte Cassino, Ortona, etc. More of the same, pretty much. Well, I shouldn't say that. That makes it sound like it doesn't matter. It's a very nice map. It very much does matter. So that's the map. Now, some of the other goodies I got. I don't want to take too long because this video has gotten way longer than I thought it would be. But there is a lot to this game, and I really am a fanboy, in case you couldn't tell. So let's look at the other goodies I received. We'll start with the border strips, which are pretty cool. So you have New Zealand, you have the Italians, you have the Canadians, and you have the British Army. Those are pretty cool. So these let you use, instead of the little counters that you can use to mark corners, you can use these to mark the corners on that gigantic map. And then I also got instead of using the trackers on the board, you can use these guys. So we have one for the Allied side, the British Commonwealth. You have the British, the Canadians, and the New Zealanders. Your impulse roll modifier. This is cool because this is based on your casualties. So as you take casualties, you're going to get penalties that will reduce the number of impulse points you get. And then you have your 10, 20, 30s over here along, and a turn tracker, and then victory, casualty, impulse for both sides. And we have the Germans and the Italians. So that is pretty cool as well, in my opinion. And the other thing I got, because I do have OST Volume 2, which does have American forces, is this guy right here, the Americans at Anzio. This is an additional 5 scenarios, all about the USA and Italy. This is Mark Clark and the U.S. Fifth Army and the Anzio campaign. So that's pretty neat. Five more scenarios to try out using the pieces from OST 2, which was the, of course, second game, which covered the Western Front. So that, my friends, is Old School Tactical Volume 4. The latest from Flying Pig Games just came out. Just going out to the Kickstarter backers now. And of course, I did get mine today, as I said. So I wasted no time in doing a video on this. Very excited to get this to the table. I do have a few other things with the weekend coming up to do. But I am planning on doing this very, very soon. So look for this in the next week or so. A playthrough of at least probably the base game, and then maybe we'll get into For the Empire and the Americans in Anzio down the road. I now have so much Old School Tactical, I could do an Old School Tactical month if I wanted to. And I'm not saying I won't, but not immediately, because I do have a big backlog of things I still want to get done. So that's going to do it for now. I do appreciate you guys watching. I hope you found this enlightening, informational, interesting. Pick your word of the day, and not anything negative. But that is it for this one. I'm Joe. This is Hexed Encountered, and until next time, as always, happy gaming.